Hello, sacred souls. It's Susanna from Alamanic Shaman. What I have here for us tonight is the topic of healing any and all trauma related to being an unwanted child or being connected to a close family member who was an unwanted child. So that means, let's say, maybe the parents weren't ready to have children and the pregnancy was an accident, or it might have been the wrong timing, or anything else. It could even be something where, let's say, especially like in the past, during war times, for example, women might have been raped by enemy soldiers and they didn't have the option of aborting the child, right? So abortion was not an option back then. Then that child might have been deeply resented for what had happened to the mother, yet at the same time they still loved the child, but it was still traumatized, right? So anything like that. And basically the way I came across this topic today was I was guided to a video on YouTube that was called Being an Unwanted Child Comes with a Lifetime of Trauma. And the YouTube channel is Tim Fletcher. So it actually clarified a few things for me as well. I mean, I know that my brother was an accident, and both my mom, or our mom, and his father, who was not my father, were very young, and they weren't ready to be parents, but then both of their families forced them to get married because that's what you do back then, or what you did back then when, you know, there was an unwanted pregnancy. The young parents were forced together. And my brother was about a year old, roughly, when they separated and then divorced. And there was a lot of relationship drama as well, of course. But basically, my mother mentioned it enough times that my brother was an accident, right? So it was very clear to him that he was not wanted. And his dad left when he was very young, right? And on top of that, they should have done a C-section, but it was too late. My mom was already in contractions, so they basically used something sort of like a medical plunger. I'm not sure what the term for that is, but they basically sucked him out, and his head was cone-shaped for the first few days. And I remember my mom saying several times to me, you know, he looked so ugly. He was like cone-shaped. And I don't know if she ever mentioned that to my brother as well, but knowing her, I suspect she probably did mention it at some point. So imagine how traumatizing that is for a child, right? So definitely unwanted. Now my mother, I know my grandparents didn't really plan on her. They were married, but it was still World War II, and I believe my mom's dad was on vacation, and then my grandmother got pregnant. So it was definitely not the right time. She was born like right at the end of World War II, and then they went into, you know, absolute poverty after the war was lost by Germany, right? So there was a lot of hardship and struggles, and also abandonment and other stuff. But these are some very typical examples of people around us. Like, I know that my parents wanted me. They got married. I was born a year later. I was definitely planned. So I personally had a better start in life than they did, but their trauma definitely also massively influenced me, right? So for those of us who weren't directly unwanted children, we were still affected by close family members who were, right? And my brother's 8.5 years older, so like I kind of saw him almost a little bit like a father figure in a sense, right? So there was also that dynamic. Okay, so to make a long story short, let's do this topic. I'm gonna smudge and then we're gonna call in the spirit guides. Actually, oh yes, and I didn't really talk about this. So obviously here I have a baby doll to represent the baby, the pregnancy, the unwanted pregnancy. And sand, I chose sand in this glass bowl because sand is supposed to heal all wounds. So the sands of time also in a sense, right? Yeah, the sands of time. So we're supposed to heal, but many people carry that trauma with them throughout their whole lives, right? And sometimes even when they're 50, 60 years old, they still carry that trauma with them, and they may still blame those that have wronged them and so on, right? So there's a lot of stuff going on that if it stays unhealed, the person will eventually pass away and carry that into the next lifetime and so on, right? So for those of us who are able to heal it and also heal the lineage, the bloodline, that helps everybody, right? Okay, but now let's smudge. Okay. Please cleanse, clear, and renew all of our energies and reconnect us to the divine energy, the divine love light energy that flows through all of us and connects us all. It connects us to the divine within us and around us. And we are already healed, except through separation, we forgot about it. So please help us reconnect for this healing. Thank you. And the picture just froze. So there's definitely something weird going on energetically still. Oh, thank you, Dankeschön, all my relations. Okay, so I hope the picture didn't cut or the video didn't cut. Sometimes that happens, but I'll just keep going and hopefully it's fine. So, dear Creator, higher power, source and soul energy, our higher selves, our higher spirit guides of the light, our ancestors that are in the light, dear Mother Earth, powers of all four directions, powers of the east, powers of the south, powers of the west, powers of the north, powers of all four elements, air, earth, fire, and water, and all other benevolent powers, forces, spirits, and beings of the universe that are of the light. Please join the ceremony and assist the healings, prayers, and protection with all of your powers. Thank you. Please close the circle of protection around us. Thank you. Thank you for helping us bring all the various types of trauma to the surface to be released one by one step at a time, bit by bit. Thank you for helping us release heal from and release the trauma of unwanted pregnancies and children not being wanted, not being welcomed, being seen as a burdening surprise or anything similar to that effect. Help all those that were unwanted children and those of us who were connected to them by being close family members. Let all of us heal from this trauma. Let it go by reconnecting and shifting into oneness with the divine. By reconnecting to understanding, compassion, and kindness, and into moving into a deep understanding of the struggles that all those family members and relatives themselves had that committed the abuse, that were giving those children the feeling of not being welcome, not being wanted, and therefore creating complex PTSD that is often overlooked when there are bigger issues as well. But this is the kind of trauma that can very much affect a child way into adulthood and all the way throughout our lives. So let any and all trauma be pulled out of us and sent into the light for healing, to be transmuted into pure divine love light energy, and then returned to source for reintegration. And so it is. Thank you, Dankeschön, all my relations. And let us take, whoops, the bottle fell off. Give me one sec. Okay, one moment. I gotta learn to be more precise with how I word things. One moment. We now love ourselves and our rejected and unwanted family members that were unwanted children. We understand the situation from a neutral perspective that gives us the understanding of what those parents were dealing with, what they were struggling with. If they were teenage parents and just not ready, if they were living through war times or domestic abuse or anything else that wasn't a good setting to bring a child into, and the parents just couldn't deal with it. We're healing from all of that. We're connecting to the divine within. We're moving into our heart space. And we are feeling the true unconditional love for all beings of creation. We are lovable simply because we exist, no matter what the circumstances. Every child is a blessing. We are loved, we are supported, we are protected, we're safe. Not just now, but we were back then. Loved, safe, and protected by the divine. Even though we didn't know, we didn't feel the connection, our soul came to this planet to learn certain lessons. But that's what teaches us and prepares us for the soul mission that we have in this lifetime. We forgive. We bless everyone involved with love. And we release all those experiences from our lives, freeing all of us for all eternity, clearing and healing our entire bloodlines throughout all of time and space, throughout all lifetimes, timelines, parallel and alternate realms, realities, multi and universes, and any and all other aspects that affect us in this lifetime and moving forward. And so it is. Thank you. Dankeschön, all my relations. What just popped into my head as well is I also watched a short from Teal Swan today where she talked about how war trauma not just affected the soldiers, but after they returned home, it affected their sons and grandsons. This is based on a study that was done, but apparently it didn't affect the women. The trauma genetically was passed down to the other males that followed in that bloodline. So the same, I know, also applies to other trauma. And if trauma happened to females, it was passed down to the daughters and granddaughters and so on, right? So, but then also the interactions between the men and women, the males and females, affected the whole dynamic and the abuse, right? But if there was specific trauma that could genetically even be passed down, there are genetic markers in our DNA that can be affected by that and that are changed and altered through the trauma. So that's actually something that I'm not sure for how long medical professionals have been aware of it. I'm assuming probably less than 100 years, right? So I'm assuming maybe 50 plus years since all the advances in the medical field and studies with DNA and so on. But when you think about it, for millennia, there have been wars and battles between different tribes, and there was migration and conquering of different areas and whatnot, and throughout history, right? So there was a lot of trauma that happened all across. And as I mentioned, the soldiers came back, they returned with trauma, with PTSD, but the women sometimes went through really horrible times back home as well. And, you know, if they were conquered or if the enemy occupied their area, then it was often common practice. It was a war strategy that the women got raped. So, like, there was a lot of stuff going on when there was civil, political, and other wartime, like, unrest, or when there were other horrors going on in a dictatorship, in a tyranny, and so on, right? So all of that, we're now also letting go with that. There are other videos that go more into details, but all the stuff that plays into the topic of unwanted children, a lot of it does tie into that. Not necessarily when it comes to, let's say, teenage parents or anything like that, but whatever trauma was passed down gets carried out, gets carried on, sorry. Not carried out. Wow, why did I say that? Carried out. Orders get carried out. So yeah, there's, it's more sort of a feeling, a sense that I'm having of like a lot of that wartime trauma also causes parents to not really want and welcome children if there are pregnancies, because they're still dealing with their own trauma and they're not ready and able to be proper parents, proper loving, caring parents, right? So all of that, we're now letting it go. Let's take a deep breath in and breathe in the pure, divine, love, light energy. And let's breathe out any and all remnants from all this dark stuff that we've carried for generations and generations and generations, and also more recent stuff. If you were the unwanted child or your sibling or your parent, and we're letting all of that go. We thank those experiences for the learning lessons that our soul needed or wanted in this lifetime to grow, to mature, and to be ready for the ascension process. We needed to have a certain point of development that usually comes from pain and trauma to rise above already established levels of consciousness. So when there's trauma, if we can find a way to look at it from the outside, which some of us were more able to do than, let's say, others who are still in complete victim mentality, still completely reliving the experience and being triggered again and again. But if we can remove ourselves and look at it from the outside, then we can choose, we can make a conscious choice to not continue the pattern and to not keep reliving it. And when it comes to our own trauma reactions and being triggered, that may not happen overnight. But if each time we can catch ourselves and get in touch with our higher self and the divine and get that outside perspective, then we realize this was simply an important lesson. Thank you for the experience, but we now release it, and we now release it from our body, mind, spirit, soul, and energy field. We release it karmically throughout all of our lineages, and that could include step lineages, foster lineages, or if there are any adoption lineages or anything like that, or anyone who was a caregiver but not directly married into the family or anything. All those lineages shall be healed as well throughout all of time and space, throughout all lifetimes, timelines, parallel and alternate realms, realities, multi and universes, and any and all other aspects that affect us in this lifetime and moving forward. And so it is, all my relations. And let the sand now help us return to the childlike innocence and joy that we experienced when we visited the ocean or a lake or any other beach or sandy area that we had the privilege of visiting as a child, or if not, then maybe a sandbox at least. But just put some sand in front of a child and they are in bliss, right? So Great Spirit of the sand, please help us reconnect with this pure, innocent, childlike state of being. Help us reconnect to our inner child and the divine, and heal our inner child through that reconnection. Let the pure divine love light energies flow right into our inner child and just warm it from the inside, and just like that, be inside our inner child. And heal it. Thank you, Dankeschön, all my relations. I call back our power, our strength, our happiness, our joy, our luck, our love, our drive to follow our dreams and goals, our abundance, and our connection, our oneness with all of creation, to appreciate every leaf, every flower, every bird, every insect, as we used to when we were small children, where we could watch ants crawl in and out of their ant hill and just enjoy watching them carry little bits and pieces of whatever they were carrying, where we could just watch a butterfly or be in awe of a flower or anything like that. Okay, For all those of you who would like to stay in these energies a bit longer, please pause the video. For the rest of us, let this ceremony now be finished. Please open the circle of protection around us, but keep us strongly safe, shielded, and protected. And so it is. Thank you, Dankeschön, all my relations, all our relations. Thank you so much for watching, for being a part of this ceremony, and for being on your own healing and ascension journey. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. And I'm also sending you tons of love, light, and blessings. Be well until next time, and I wish you great abundance. Bye.